question, please raise your hand, and we'll go from there. I'm kind of at an awkward angle from what I'm used to being, so if you can, please raise your hand high so I can see it. Okay, all the way in the back of the room.
Do you have any ideas for a new film in the future?
Future film?
Yes, sir.
No, you know, I've been, the last 2 years, I can't believe it's taken that long, but it's taken 2 years for me to write this comic book series called Empire of the Dead. It didn't take me that long to write it, but I have to, you know, supervise basically storyboard everything and supervise the artists. They had 3 different artists over the course of the 15 books. So the last book finally just came out this week or last week. And so I'm looking forward. I think it may become a TV series. Just, you never know.
Okay, right here.
Do you ever hear from Stephen King anymore? And is there ever a chance you would work together again, maybe on another Creep show or something?
Well, Creep show, the question was, do I ever hear from Stephen King? Once in a great while. The last time we worked together was he did a voice on Diarrhea, for Diarrhea. He did one of the news voices. He did a preacher voice on Diarrhea of the Dead. And that's pretty much it. Creep Show, my ex-partner Richard Rubenstein sold the rights, and they made a Creep Show 3, which neither Steve nor I had anything to do with. So I doubt, you know, those rights are probably gone. So I don't think there'll be another Creep Show, unless somebody buys them back.
Okay, right over here.
What was your biggest setback in shooting Night of the Living Dead? What was your biggest setback in shooting Night of the Living Dead, and how did you overcome it?
Oh gosh, biggest setback? I mean, there were setbacks all over the place. We were shooting commercial jobs all during the production of that film. So we had to break, go back and shoot a beer commercial, and come back and, you know, and keep shooting the film. And we shot from summer all the way into, the snow was flying when we finished. So, you know, I think it was middle of November when we finally finished. So that was the biggest problem. And we were always biting our nails, because if something had happened to any of those people, particularly the actors, we would have been in trouble. But, you know, thankfully, somebody was looking out for us, and everything turned out.
Okay, right here.
How do you feel about the evolution of zombies from your original ones to the ones today?
Well, I don't know. The question is, how do I feel about the evolution of zombies? I don't think they've evolved.
They were pretty slow moving in the original versus the faster moving, and they put that.
Yeah, well, the faster moving zombies, I don't want anything to do with those. I don't think, you know, dead people don't move fast. So, you know, at least in The Walking Dead, they don't do that. But, you know, I made my own mistakes when I made the first film, because I didn't think of them as zombies. I never called them zombies. I thought they were ghouls or, you know, some new kind of thing. I thought zombies were those boys in the Caribbean that were doing the wet work for Lugosi. But Bill Heinzman moves kind of quick there a couple of times, so that sort of embarrasses me now when I say they can't move quick. But I don't like it. I love the idea of just this lumbering thing that just keeps coming after you, and you know, can't stop it, or it's hard to stop. Could easily outrun it, but most people are too stupid to do that.
Okay, right here.
On the talk about The Walking Dead, do you watch The Walking Dead? Do you watch The Walking Dead?
No, I had to watch the first couple of episodes because I did a thing for AMC where I was hosting the whole Halloween month. So I had to watch the first couple. And I think Frank Darabont did a great job. And, you know, I admired the graphic novels. But, you know, I don't know, they fired Frank. I don't know what happened there. I think it has to do with money, right? And I think they cheaped out, as AMC sometimes does. And I haven't watched it ever since. I know one of my old friends is one of the exec producers down at Greg Nicodero. But I don't know. They asked me to do one, and I said I didn't want to. So.
Right here.
What was your favorite film to direct?
My favorite film to direct was Day of the Dead, because everybody was on board, everybody was on the same page. A bunch of people, you know, was working with friends and old friends and new friends, and I loved the whole cast. Everybody was great, and it just came together like. You know, just beautifully. You know, we had a few problems with being down in that mine, but they weren't insurmountable problems. And everybody pulled along and, you know, had as good a time as we could have doing it. Working on films is difficult. Difficult hours and difficult conditions. Temperature in that mine was 58 degrees. And that sounds not too bad, but when you're in it for, you know, 10 hours a day, it gets into your bone. And so it was just a great experience. The other two really great experiences were Night Riders and Martin, I'm sorry, I couldn't think of the name of my movie there for a minute. Martin, I love doing that film.
What's the difference, George, between doing a film like Day of the Dead, where I guess you're a little bit more directly involved, or I don't know if that's the right word, but more in control, as opposed to your experience with making like Land of the Dead with, you know, I guess, more corporate involvement?
Yeah, well, the fact is, Land of the Dead really, even though it's was a universal release, it was produced by an independent producer named Mark Cannon, who had this studio-connected guy, but he did it as an independent and then sold it to Universal. So I wasn't working directly for the studio. The two times that I worked directly for a studio were Monkey Shines and The Dark Half, which was both for Orion. And that was dreadful. Now, the problem with Land of the Dead was just distribution. They didn't distribute it at all. They tried to squeeze it into a slot that happened to open up at the last minute. And it was a week before Batman and a week after the War of the Worlds, and it just got lost. It was impossible. So that was the amazing thing to me. I mean, they put all this money out, biggest budget that I ever had on a zombie film. And I didn't want to talk about that in a minute. I didn't think it was necessary to spend all that money. I mean, Dennis Hopper's cigar budget was more than we spent on the entire Night of the Living Dead. So, you know, that gets to you. But we had a pretty good time with Universal's executives. They didn't give us any trouble. They let us make the movie that I wanted to make, and that part of it was great. I thought they just messed up the distribution terribly. But it did make me want to go back to the roots, and so I fled after that. And the Diary of the Dead we did on $2 million from Survival. It was 2.5. So I just eagerly went running back to the low budget so that I could try to get some semblance of control that I was used to.
Right here.
Who are some of your favorite actors or actresses to work with, and was there anyone you wish you could have worked
Well, you know, the person that I just, in my heart, always wanted to work with was Marlon Brando. But never got to work with him. And I wish somehow that could have happened. I just thought he was a genius. And you know what? I loved Leslie Nielsen, was a tremendous guy. Adrienne Barbeau was wonderful. Tom Atkins is a really great guy. And Ed Harris is a dear friend and just, again, really terrific guy. So I guess I would say those are pretty much my favorite people among the actors that I work with. I'll probably leaving a couple out. So. Yeah.
Out of either night, dawn, or day, is there a scene or a performance that will stick out in your mind as being kind of an iconic one for those films?
The question was, is there a performance in either night, dawn, or day that was iconic? And I have to say, Howard Sherman as Bub was, I think that, you know, Karloff Worthy's performance was just
Okay, right here.
Yes. Out of curiosity, my very good friend's cousin was one of the zombie extras in the woods in Night of the Living Dead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sure, sorry. My very good friend's cousin was a zombie extra in Night of the Living Dead in the woods. His story was that it was simple as being in the town, and someone asked him if he wanted to be an extra in the movie, and he said sure, and there he was. Is that how it really worked in those days? Was it that easy to become an extra?
In those days, yeah. I mean, when we made night, we would welcome anybody that was willing to stand around with that goop on for 8 hours. You know, these days, zombie walks are, you know, they're unbelievable. I mean, people do these elaborate makeups and come out for a zombie walk. I mean, 5,000 people show up. And we could never do that. I mean, you know, we have to pay union extra wages. So
I was trying to ascertain the veracity of this simple story there. It seemed a little too good to be true. So
I'm sorry?
I was trying to ascertain the veracity of the story. So
it's probably true. I mean, I don't know who you're talking about, but it's probably true. And I know a lot of those people that are in the background on that film were people from around the town, and also people, good friends of ours that worked in the media. At that time, we had a little production company doing industrial films and TV commercials and stuff like that. And a lot of our friends came out to be zombies or to be extras in the posse. And a lot of people from town volunteered and, you know, brought their shotguns.
Okay, right here.
It's been well documented about the public domain rights of Night of the Living Dead. But recently I read that someone acquired the rights for merchandising to slowly work the rights towards you and other people involved with the original story. Do you have any insight on this?
Yeah, it's not towards me, it's toward the investor group. It's called Image 10. And there is a group, I don't think it's a done deal yet, but there is a group that's trying to get a trademark, not a copyright, but a trademark on the title, on the logo type and stuff like that. And I think that Kyra Schoen is trying to do that. Russ Striner and Kyra are trying to get some kind of a trademark on that picture of her. I mean, that picture of her is all over the world. And she hasn't gotten a nickel out of that. So I know that they're trying to do that, but that's the last I heard about it.
Okay, right there at the back.
Years ago, you had a project you were working on called The Diamond Dead. And there's been a couple of small runs of it, of people that have done it on their own independently, but there's been no major production on it. Is there any plans in the future? Is there anything moving forward with that?
No. No, just asking about a project that we had, I was working on with a producer for a while, and also Richard Hartley, one of the guys that wrote the score for Rocky Horror Picture Show. And we were working on this together, a movie called The Diamond Dead. And it never happened. We even had, Ridley Scott was going to produce it. And even with him, we couldn't get it off the ground. Nobody got it. Nobody, studio executives, they all say, what's this piece of crap? So, nobody got it. And as far as I know, it fell apart. I don't have the rights to it. I know there's an Australian guy, I forgot his name already, that has the rights. And Hartley may have a piece of the rights. So maybe they're doing something with it, but I haven't heard anything for a while.
Right here.
Out of the more effects-heavy zombies throughout your movies, which one would be your favorite?
Out of
The more effects-heavy zombies, the special effects ones, the ones with more makeup, which one would be your favorite?
Well, again, I'm not sure what you mean by special effects zombies, right? Yeah, I mean, Bub is my favorite zombie of all, and that Big Daddy I thought was terrific. But when you say special effects, you mean the gags, the actual effects?
Well, like Dr. Tongue at the beginning of Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
Those,
Okay.
more like that, yeah.
No, Savini and I always thought that Dr. Tongue never really made it. And yet, I see all kinds of little statues of Dr. Tongue, and he's all over the place, and somehow he caught on. It was a great idea, but I know that Tom, there he is, okay. I know that Tom never felt that it was fully successful. The shot of it, there's only that one shot of it. It's underexposed, you can't quite see it. You see it better on that doll than you ever did in the movie. So neither of us thought it was ever going to do anything, and yet it's become a really popular thing.
I'd say he's my favorite.
Okay, great.
Who else? Right here.
Hi. Outside of your Dead films, are there any other movies that you've done, like Night Riders or Monkey Shines, that you'd like to go back and do a sequel to, or another movie like that?
No, I've never really wanted to do a sequel to any of the films that I made. I'd like to remake a movie that I did called Season of the Witch. It was eventually called Season of the Witch. Our original title was Jack's Wife. And I wouldn't mind remaking that, because there was a small brokerage that was raising the money for it, and they just stopped coming up with money halfway through, and then eventually the brokerage went bankrupt. And so we never had the money to really finish the film. But, we kept pushing. We did finish a film, but it never was what we really wanted it to be. So I'd love to take another whack at that. But I don't know if that premise would work today. I think it would have to be changed. Make it a powerful woman instead of a weak woman. I think that maybe I could do something with that, but I don't think that's going to happen.
For Night, Dawn, and Day, the social commentary in the movies, was that intentionally written when you put those films together, or was that just your style of writing?
The social commentary in Night of the Living Dead that was intentional was really the whole business of the lack of communication between people that are in crisis. And, something extraordinary is happening out there. It's something earth-changing. And they're arguing about mundane things, stay upstairs, go downstairs, you know, they're arguing among themselves and failing to notice that there's something huge is happening. And that was the whole theme that we wanted. Now, it came to be considered a racial statement film. And that we never intended. Dwayne Jones happened to be the best actor from among our friends when we shot the film, and he agreed to do it. We never changed the role. When John and I wrote the script, we thought of him in our mind as a white guy. And when Dwayne agreed to do the role, we just didn't change the script. So the same things happened to him when he was white. He got shot by the posse accidentally, and it wasn't meant to be racial. The night that we had the very first copy, the very first print that we struck, called an answer print of Night of the Living Dead. And Russ Streiner and I had that print. We were taking it to New York to show it to distributors, potential distributors. That night, in the car, we heard that Martin Luther King had been shot. And I mean, all of a sudden, Russ and I looked at each other in the car and we said, this is gonna put a completely different spin on this movie. And it wasn't our intention. We thought we were doing something good by just ignoring race. And all of a sudden, we couldn't ignore it anymore.
Who else has a question? Right here.
Do you ever hear from Bill Cardille?
Chili Billy Cardilli. No, I just recently heard from his daughter, Lori, that he's still around and kicking. I was just in Pittsburgh, but I didn't see him. Lori Cardille, Bill's daughter, plays Sarah, the lead in Day of the Dead.
When I was a kid in Philly, he used to be the back then it was WWF. He used to be the WWF wrestling announcer.
That's right, he was a wrestling guy.
Yeah.
He was a wrestling guy. He had a show called Chiller Theater, a late night.
Oh, okay.
After the news, 11:30, whatever, called Chiller Theater. I think Philly had Zachary.
Well, yeah, we had Zachary, and then we had Dr. Shock after that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, right back here.
Do you like working with Marvel Comics, the comic book medium?
I love doing the comic books. It's kind of liberating because you don't have to worry about having to shoot it. Which is a big. I was able to use New York. I was able to, destroy New York and not have to worry about how I was going to pull it off. But it was not a lot of fun working for Marvel. Marvel is owned by Disney. I love the Marvel guys. The Disney guys, forget about it. You know that they didn't give us a single copy, my partner and I, they didn't give us a single copy of one of the books. Zero. We had to go buy them. Like they don't have enough dough.
And it'll be a ride down to Disney in about 2 years. What?
What are your thoughts on Shaun of the Dead? It did a good job of making tribute to the Dead movies, but not belittle them.
Well, the question is about Shaun of the Dead. I love Shaun of the Dead. And those guys have become pretty good friends. I've become pretty good friends with them. They're great guys. Simon and Ed Wright and Nick Frost. Yeah. We see them when we're in London. And actually, Simon and Edgar came in to be zombies in the Land of the Dead. So we've become pretty good friends over that film. They originally, when they got distribution on that film, they sent me a copy. I was in Florida, and some guy from Universal showed up with a print of Shaun of the Dead chained to his wrist. And showed it to me alone in a little theater. And I was sitting there by myself with this guy from Universal who wasn't cracking a smile. And I'm cracking up. And I loved it right away. And they just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to, badmouth it.
Yeah.
Do you have any special memories of Bill Heinman?
Well, Bill was a wonderful friend. I mean, I had known him for Bill Heinzman question. Zombie #1, the first guy. And he was a really good friend for years before we ever did Night. He shot, we used to shoot, he used to be a still photographer. He started out as a still photographer. And our company used to occasionally do still work. And Bill was always the guy that did it. So then he graduated and learned how to, shoot with 35 millimeter movie film. He shot The Crazies, and we worked on a lot of projects together for all the years that he was around. And sadly he passed a couple of years ago. His wife is. One of my best friends in the business is a young guy named Nick Mastandria, who became an assistant director, a big deal assistant director in Hollywood. Did all of Wes Craven's films for a number of years. And his sister wound up becoming Bill's wife. And they had a couple of kids together. He was a great guy.
Okay, in the back corner.
Just real quick, besides Night of the Living Dead, I really enjoyed Creep Show. That was a good.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Work on. Is there any kind of memory or something neat from the set that stands out in your mind from working on Creep Show, working with anybody, or something funny?
I'd be lying if I didn't say that the cockroach thing was. Everybody was. The name of that story was They're Creeping Up on You, I think. And everybody was creeped out by those cockroaches. It's a weird thing, but if you try to buy cockroaches from a lab, they want 50 cents a piece. Well, we needed like 500,000 cockroaches. So that would have been a pretty big line item in the budget. So we actually got a couple of guys, scientists from the Museum of Natural History in New York, and they went to Jamaica into caves and got all these cockroaches. And they sent back pictures of them in caves, waist deep in cockroaches. Wow. And so, if you want to talk about creeping out, and some of those boys were these big like that. And you can see there's a couple of them, they were called Blabberus giganter. And they were monsters. But E.G. Marshall, man, he just let us put them on him. They would give them, I forget what they were giving them, I don't know, little shots of gas, yeah.
To make them move.
To slow them up. Because we used to keep them, they had them in big Rubbermaid garbage cans. I mean, these big, tall Rubbermaid things. And I kid you not, we had, the set was sealed so that they couldn't escape. But you dump out one of those things full of cockroaches and they're gone in 20 seconds. You don't see one. But then you take the casing off the phone and it was a phone-shaped thing of cockroaches. They got into every little nook and cranny. That was unbelievable.
Who else right there?
What was the experience like making Bruiser? And was that the first time you filmed outside of Pittsburgh?
It wasn't actually the first thing that we ever shot outside of Pittsburgh was the beach stuff for Creepshow. Other than that, yeah, Bruiser was the first film that I made entirely in Canada. And, you know, it was a simple story. We had $5 million, and with the rate of exchange in Canada, that became 6.5. So, and that was purely a financial decision to go up there. And it was great walking up there. And I fell in love with the place, fell in love with the people, and the work ethic was sensational. And so when we got the deal to make Land of the Dead, I went right back. And I'm still living there. I'm loving it there. I met my wife there, and I really love it.
Okay, we're gonna take a couple last questions. Guy all the way in the back.
Your original 2009 remake of Crazies.
What did I think of it?
Yeah.
Well, I was telling somebody just a little while ago that the problem with the crazy, you know, our version of the Crazies, the idea was, the whole central idea of that film was that you didn't know who was crazy. The government guys were just as crazy as the people who were infected. And I like the idea of not knowing. And it's essential to, even in the end, the guy is looking crazy, the hero. And that was the whole thing, that was the whole point. And the problem is, when they did the remake, you know, they turned them into zombies. And so the Crazies looked, you could tell there was something wrong with those guys. And so I just thought that they missed the point.
The other person that was on the back.
Your original cut of Martin ran significantly longer than the version that was the actual release.
Right.
What was some of the material missing from the version we all know now?
You mean what was missing?
Yeah, what's missing from the current version that was in your longer cut?
Yeah, well, you know, I eventually felt that everything that I left in the film was basically the essence of the film. And so in my mind, it was just more of the same. You know, it was repeats of things that I thought were already repetitive. And so I think that I was able to edit it down to, you know, more of its essence. And the stuff that was lost, I didn't think was essential. That print should exist someplace, and I ask everyone here, and I often do this, if anybody knows where that missing print is, because there is one 16mm finished print of the lone version of Martin. And by the way, we just found there's Scorsese is instrumental in restoring Night of the Living Dead. And in the process of doing that, Jack Russo and Russ, and they had all the elements, and they found an old Workprint of Night with the missing 9 minutes.
Oh.
So hopefully they're going to be able to restore that. It's just a 16mm Workprint, but I think they can, you know, beef that up and maybe include it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that stuff, because I don't exactly remember it, but anyway, it's something you don't know. People they don't save that stuff. Nobody saves it. It costs too much to store, you know. In those days, it was nitrate, you know. Yeah. Right down, catch fire. Yeah.
Okay, right here.
You talk about working with the monkey and monkey shines.
I went from cockroach stories to monkey stories. It was pretty weird. I mean, we had monkeys I don't know, what are the best stories to tell? Monkeys will, in fact, bond. Like that was, Boo was a female monkey. So many stories. Those monkeys, the monkeys in the actual program, It's called Helping Hands. This is an organization that puts monkeys in with quadriplegics, paraplegics, in order to help them. Bring sandwiches, turn on the lights. All the stuff that you see the monkeys doing in Monkey Shine, that's a real program. And we needed, what they do with those monkeys is extract their teeth because they're not that reliable. And we needed a monkey that with teeth so that it would look threatening. And those monkeys are raised actually in Disney World. And they're given to humans for 3 years in order for the monkeys to get used to living around humans. The humans are supposed to sign a thing which says that they'll give them back. This woman refused to give it back, went to court, sued, and managed to win the monkey, to keep the monkey. She loved the monkey loved her, and it still had its teeth. So, and she was so, the other monkeys in the film were actual monkeys from the program. And they would just not do it. You know, the monkeys are smart enough that they're capable of saying, forget about it, I'm not going to do this right now. Ask me tomorrow. And this monkey, because it loved the trainer, Chris, what's her name, was just great. It wound up doing 80% of the gags in the film, and all of the close-ups. And it was just a sensational monkey. But they bond. Like a monkey in heat, a female monkey in heat, which Boo was a female. The day that Boo went into heat, we got this call, Boo's in heat. We had to send over Jason Begay, the lead actor, so that he was the first male that she saw that day. And so for the rest of the day, and actually I think for like 48 hours, she would throw himself at Jason. Throw himself. And that's how we got all that affectionate stuff.
I'm getting a monkey.
Unbelievable. Strange but true.
Out of all the films that you made, what was your favorite soundtrack that was composed for one of your films?
Soundtrack, composed soundtrack, I love Day of the Dead. Johnny's music is sensational in that film. He did Creepshow as well. I really like that too, except that some of the Creepshow stuff was pre-recorded library stuff, but all the stuff that John did original was fabulous. Goblin, I loved the sound of it. I didn't use as much as Dario wanted to use. And in Dario's version of the film, it's all Goblin. But I had the right to use as much or as little as I wanted, so I used a bunch of it, but I liked some of the corny library stuff better.
Okay, next one here.
I heard a story that Stephen King showed you his version of Maximum Overdrive, and it's supposed to be more graphic and it made you sick. Is that true at all?
Was more graphic than
the theatrical version.
Oh, yeah, I really don't know. I don't know. I know Steve was a little disgruntled. We're talking about Maximum Overdrive, which is a movie that Steve directed, and Steve King. And I don't know, we never talked about that, about whether there was missing stuff, or we just never talked about it. I know he was a little disgruntled that he wasn't able to get all the stuff that he wanted to get. That's about the only thing he ever said to me about it.
Okay, next up, Alan Howarth is going to